Hello friends, it's Kat from Meow Kapow. As you may know, I've been slowly tackling the process of learning gouache in a way that makes it less intimidating for me. Our first real step was making monochromatic pieces just using one color and white to help make the texture of the paint itself easier for me to control. That step was super helpful for me and made it easier to control the thickness of the paints themselves, and also encouraged me to remember to use white as a way of shifting colors, something that I'd kind of lost as a habit when I started working with watercolors. The paint I'm using today is Royal Talens Gouache, which I put into a watertight pill case that I had hoped would make a good stay wet travel palette, but is only semi-successful since the paints did dry slightly after 2 weeks in the palette. There are links in the doobly-doo for the materials, though I will say, these paints are overwhelmingly smelly, so I wouldn't recommend them if you're sensitive to that kind of thing. I'm not particularly sensitive to paint smells, and even I thought it was a little rough. I chose this color selection for its simplicity as a split primary set, though, and I'll also link to some Holbein gouache that I know of that don't smell and are in a similar color range. I'll do a review of the Royal Talens gouache after I've gotten more familiar with it. After I was more comfortable with the actual paint itself from our last video, I quickly realized that my next challenge was consistently understanding how to mix the colors I needed in gouache. You'd think it would be the same as any other paint mixing, but for some reason I struggled to get what I was aiming for. But then Dan from Penholder Art inspired me. If you aren't familiar with Penholder Art, I'll link his channel in the doobly-doo. He's a fellow YouTuber who also happens to make and sell his own incredible watercolors, and he spent a month just trying to accurately color match watercolor paints to objects around his house. This is such a simple challenge to take on, but it's honestly quite brilliant when the problem you're having is tailored to this solution, so let's practice mixing colors. Don't worry about getting the texture of the paint right and making it super opaque, and don't worry about making additional tones like shadows and highlights. Focus first on just getting the base colors you need. I grabbed random but simple objects from my desk and tried to dissect the colors. Looking at this green, it's a very yellow green, so I know I'm going to need more yellow than blue in order to mix it. It's also a slightly warm, slightly muddled green, and when you mix a cool color with a warm color, you get that slightly muddled effect. So I chose a cool yellow and mixed it with a warm blue. Then it was just a matter of adjusting the ratios until it looked right, or looked right enough anyway. Same for the red. It looks like a kind of slightly cool red, but it's also a bit dark and looks slightly neutralized. Because of this, I mixed both the warm and cool red that were in my palette until I thought I had something close, but it was still missing that small bit of neutralization. To neutralize a color and make it slightly less shockingly bright and purely itself, you add whatever the opposite of the color is on the color wheel. Good thing I just finished mixing up green then. I continued this on for a bit, then making a sort of peach color using the red I'd already made, adding a bit of yellow and a bit of white to mimic the rest of the lid. It's crucial to remember the importance of utilizing white in gouache color mixing, and I still have to fight against my watercolor just add more water instincts sometimes. A perfect example of that is with all of the greens in this Totoro pencil case. I started off trying to mix them with just yellow and blue, but didn't really get a good color for the background or the lighter leaves until I added that crucial hint of white. As I started mixing more colors, I started to get a bit more confident in my ability to do it correctly. And I know that I could definitely work on the opacity of the paint, but I really wanted to focus on just the actual color portion of this adventure and didn't want to stress out too much about making things perfect. Even without shadow colors added to these little doodles, it's very obvious what objects they each represent because the colors are nicely mirrored. By the way, if you find these tips helpful, I would be so grateful if you considered subscribing if you haven't already and giving this video a like. Now, the thing that really made it difficult for me when color mixing with gouache is that once I made the right color, I'd have a problem mixing more of it once I ran out. So one thing that you could do is make a little swatch of each color once you've got it right for your painting and write down a rough formula of how you got it. I did that for the purples from this pair of scissors and the orange from the dress of this little skullgirl. Personally, for me, this would be an invaluable trick during larger paintings because I often forget how I got to a specific color, and because mixing with gouache still isn't second nature yet, I can use all the help I can get. Also, I didn't do it in this video, but if you want to color match a specific spot but are having trouble ignoring the colors around it, you could always use some tape or a piece of paper or something to cover up the area around what you're trying to match, so only one spot with just the exact color you're trying to recreate is showing through. So, what do you think? Have you been struggling with trying to get the right colors when you're painting with gouache like I have? What are some other steps in gouache that we should tackle together? And I'd love if you shared any tips or tricks you have for this medium because I'm definitely still learning. For our third step, I plan for us to combine the two techniques we've already practiced so far in this series, possibly in a way you don't expect. Until I see you next time, I wish you peace, love, and excellent mixing. Bye!